This is wild. Bungie has just announced a massive nerf coming to Edge of Fate's newest raid, Desert Perpetual, and these changes will shock you, especially if you've been out there suffering, trying to clear even the normal mode. It feels like Destiny 2, they turned up the difficulty by 100, and the whole game has been severely imbalanced. Not sure how Bungie screwed up the sandbox so badly, but they're here to make it right, at least in part. So let's go ahead and cover the changes the Destiny 2 team has just posted. We've been watching feedback the past few weeks, focused on raid and dungeon difficulty. The following changes are being planned for future updates. And if you don't know, obviously they're talking about just all the other raids in the game right now, besides Desert Perpetual. They have been overtuned with the new systems and they're extremely difficult. And there's also just no reason to do them right now because they're not a part of the portal. They don't level you up in any way. So really the population in old raids and dungeons is abysmal right now. And not to mention they're extremely difficult. So they will be updating the difficulty for legacy raid and dungeon activities to address player feedback. The combat difficulty for normal and master modes will be reduced by 10 power across the board. So if you're interested, if you want to go back and play any of those legacy raids, if you need to, I don't know, unlock some of the old exotics perhaps, at least it'll be slightly easier. So that is a W in my opinion, and a necessary one because a lot of people have requested that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Desert Perpetual. The contest, this was the hardest contest raid ever, and so for whatever reason after contest now, the raid is still ridiculously hard. People are trying to clear it on normal, and it feels like old contest difficulty, and I believe it actually is. So clearing Desert Perpetual, even on normal, is a little too brutal. A lot of people out there are like, man, am I not meant to play Destiny anymore? Like, I can't even beat the damn raid on normal, right? It's pretty tough. I went in with, obviously, my team that's, we cleared contest, and we had an easy time doing it and doing it with feats, but I went in with Fireteam Finder just to give it a try, and yeah, it was difficult. Was really difficult. We struggled quite a bit, and not the best experience. Let me know what your experience has been like doing the raid, because now Bungie's going to make it easier for you. They're going to be updating the difficulty and the combined mastery triumph in the Desert Perpetual raid to address player feedback. If you don't know, this is the triumph that makes you do the raid 5 times in order to unlock the higher tiered loot. So they're going to be lowering the bar a little bit because 5 clears with feats on at least one of them is a bit difficult. So base combat difficulty will be lowered by 10 power. Enemies will deal less damage, so it'll be easier for you to stay alive, and players will be able to deal more damage. This is great. This is good news. This will make clearing these raids significantly easier, and if you haven't seen my most recent video, make sure you're using Outbreak Perfected because it is nasty. Like, it absolutely melts all of the bosses. And with this change going live, you will be able to very easily, with a Fireteam Finder team, one phase a good majority of the bosses if you got Outbreak on. So make sure you got that bad boy unlocked. Make sure you convince your Fireteam Finder friends to slap that bad boy on. That will make clearing this so much easier. This is an excellent change by Bungie overall. I've heard a lot of people complaining the raid is just too difficult. The mechanics are pretty complex and require a lot of moving parts and movement and coordination, and, with the majority of players out there being on console, now you're kind of looking for maybe a more casual experience when you're doing the normal raid, right? They recently had the Rite of the Nine, and the Rite of the Nine had various different difficulties, and sometimes it's nice to have an entry point level of difficulty, right? Because the normal mode can be a little bit too much. So right now they're lowering the power level a little bit. That's not all though. They will be lowering the Cutthroat Combat Raid feat, specifically the combat difficulty, by 10 power. So it was plus 40 combat power, will be plus 30 combat power. So if you don't know what this was, you're better off in life, honestly. Continue with the ignorance, not knowing about this, because this was honestly the most horrible thing Bungie has added to a raid in terms of difficulty. If you like suffering, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you added this feat to the raid, it made the raid as difficult as contest mode. And you could stack on this plus 4 other feats and create a 5 feat run of Desert Perpetual. And I think only one team in the entire world has cleared that so far. And it was ridiculously difficult for them to pull that off. So it's just too tough. It's just, Bungie, I don't know what Bungie's cooking up with this. Destiny players, we're pretty hardcore. We can get some crazy stuff done, especially the sweatiest of the sweaties, right? The speedrunners out there, the Saltagrepos and things like that, the people like that. But the average player is not clearing with cutthroat combat, raid feat. All right, they're just not doing it. It's not happening. So lowering this is essential to actually get some people using this feat a little bit at least. And on top of that, they're going to be lowering the combined mastery triumph to only require a single completion at base difficulty. So they are way lowering the bar with this one. It was like clear the raid 5 times, clear it with feats on. It was quite a bit, which will upgrade gear rewards by 1 tier depending on number of feats active. Got you. So you'll still need to add some feats on. And some of them are kind of easy, if I'm being honest. The one where you have to like kill the boss in less phases. Like normally you get like 3 phases of damage. Instead, you only get 2. That's not that bad, especially if you're rocking Outbreak. You could probably get that done with most teams. And there's like one that you have like less raid tokens. Not that bad if you can stay alive, I guess. Sometimes it can be hard to stay alive though. Now it should be much easier to stay alive because enemies are doing less damage to you. Now on to the next part. Example of getting a tier 1 reward. You'll get a tier 2 reward, okay? And layering on additional feats will increase difficulty, but also help you get to tier 3 rewards and beyond. So, as it stands right now, this is an interesting point. You actually can't get tier 4 or tier 5 rewards in the raid until that power cap is increased. So, it's kind of a frustrating point where Bungie creates this really cool carrot on the end of the stick. They say, hey, we're going to make all these crazy rewards, tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And tier 5 has enhanced origin traits, which is, for some of them, it's pretty good. And so a lot of people want that carrot on the end of the stick. They want that tier 5 god roll, the shiniest, the most beautiful god roll of all. That's what people seek after. That's what people will grind for. And it's completely unobtainable, which is kind of weird to introduce this new system and then immediately time gate it by several months. So maybe Bungie will go back on that one or fix that in some way. I don't know. It doesn't seem like at this point in time. Seems like it's all locked behind that. So right now you can grind for the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 god rolls as far as we know. And so it's still worth it though, because, you know, the tier 3 god rolls are still spicy, still good. And you could take those into the epic raid. So that way you can potentially clear whatever new challenges Bungie adds into that. They're adding a whole new encounter. Maybe the meta for that encounter will be the new rocket that's in the raid. That would be kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, the new exotic rocket or even the new legendary one. You never know, so you might want to have a god roll of that. Only time will tell if that's really important, but I figured I'd bring you a video updating you on these changes because I think a lot of people have been pretty disinterested and discouraged from doing the raid because it's just been so difficult, right? Like Bungie really upped the difficulty of endgame content in Destiny 2, and a lot of people are really just not feeling it. I mean, if you're a longtime veteran and you're like, man, I can't even get a clear of this damn raid, it's kind of a problem, right? You want people to be able to do it on the easiest difficulty. There should always be like the normal difficulty and then the harder difficulty, the ability to add the feats on, stuff like that. And then there should be like an easier difficulty, like a discover difficulty, something where people can kind of go in, they get very minimal rewards, but they get the chance to sort of, run through the activity, get a feel for it, and kind of learn the mechanics a little bit. I feel like they did really good with that with Ride of the Nine. I was kind of hoping that was going to be a new trend and a new thing that would happen in all activities moving forward. But so far right now, we don't see that just yet. So maybe, fingers crossed, we'll get that in the future once Bungie hears that feedback, because this was just not it. This was just too tough. And so they literally had to make the raid easier. They had to nerf the raid because it was too tough. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. And if you want to stay up to date on all news in Destiny 2, make sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.